From upgraded graphics that will take your gaming experience to a whole new level, to fans being outraged at the publishers for scamming them, here's a look at everything you need to know about ARK Remastered, or ARK Survival Ascended, as it's called this time around. And boy, is it a huge upgrade over the original. The first game came out back in 2015, so obviously there is going to be a bunch of improvements in this version, which is pretty great because let's be honest, the launch of the original was an absolute mess. You had bugs popping in from every direction, and there was barely anything to do in the game itself. And you best believe that people were fuming. Of course, that makes you wonder, if the game was so bad when it first came out, is the team even going to be able to actually improve on it? Well, it's actually starting to look like they can. The game's now made in Unreal Engine 5, so you get much better graphics, which, if I'm being honest, is one of the biggest reasons to buy this version. I mean, no one out there can say that it's going to look bad with this upgrade. That's not all, though. You've also got crossplay between PC and consoles, and they've even brought on moderators this time. So the game isn't just for the PC nerds either, because consoles are just as important now. But coming back, the biggest reason why the developers have used this new engine has to be its graphics, giving the players better performance and ray tracing features, along with much better lighting. Trust me, the water in this game will look so real, you're gonna want to drink it. And of course, you also have brand new AI-based tech that's going to make the entire gaming experience feel super immersive. Now, who can say no to that? Not me. Just like you're not going to be able to say no to the other upgrades you're getting. That's right, pretty visuals aren't the only thing you want to look forward to in the remaster. You also have some really great gameplay changes. Forget about the days when you had to worry about janky animation, a half-assed map system, and weird walking cycles. All of that is getting a major upgrade. Though that's far from the best part, because you can now also play the game in the third person, and it all comes with an updated ping system, updated minimap, queuing along with balance passes, directional sprinting and walking, new structures. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Now, while that may sound like the game is straying a little too far from the original for some of you out there, you've got nothing to worry about. Because while the developers have made the experience smoother with a bunch of updates, the grind is still there. The objective of the remaster is still the game, and the stakes are just as high. So if this is your first time playing the game, then you are in for a hell of a ride. Plus, you get a bunch of performance updates for the survival of the fittest game mode, which is now a part of the main game. But all of that aside, being made on one of the most graphically intense engines out there has got to come at a cost, right? I mean, will the game even work on a regular old PC? If not, what do you even need to play the game? Don't worry, I've got you covered here. If you're on a console, one of the fancy ones from this generation that is, then you've got nothing to worry about. You're going to be able to play the game without a problem. But if you're still rocking a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, then you might have an issue, since the studio hasn't said a word about whether or not they're going to port it over to them. Not just that, but PC gamers are going to have an even harder time figuring this situation out, mainly because Studio Wildcard hasn't released any official system requirements for it either. But the best guess is that it's probably going to need the same kind of system needed to run ARK 2. Now, you might be wondering why I'm making that assumption. Well, they're both made in almost the same way on the same engine, so it only makes sense for them to require similar hardware to run as well, right? If you've got anything below an NVIDIA GTX 980, GTX 1060, or even an AMD RX 480, along with at least 8 gigs of RAM and anything lower than an 8th gen Intel CPU, then you're out of luck because this game is big and needs a beefy machine to play. Though all of this is just speculation at this point, no pun intended. Based on what the average open-world survival game made on Unreal Engine 5 usually need to run, emphasis on run because if rumors are true, then those are just the minimum requirements, so you're going to get about 30 frames at the lowest setting. But if you're looking for the best playing experience out there, you better bump that CPU up to anything past the 9th gen on the Intel side, and a 3rd gen Ryzen should do the trick for all of you AMD nerds out there. Of course, if you're going sicko mode on those specs, then like most games, 16 gigs of RAM is super important, along with at least an RTX 2060 or an RX 5700 from Team Red. Honestly, most games these days are nowhere near this optimized, so these aren't the wildest specs out there. But after all of this has been said and done, when is the game actually coming out? Well, since they're making it on Unreal Engine 5 now, the studio absolutely has to bring their A-game. The team has decided to release ARK Remastered on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, along with the PC. If you're one of those PlayStation gamers, then all you need are $40 to get the base game, though Xbox or PC users have a much sweeter deal over here. For just $10 extra, you're getting the game along with all downloadable content, also known as DLC. But other than that, fans might be able to get their hands on a copy sometime in the first quarter of 2024. But since the team is running into a lot of trouble dealing with the new engine, it wouldn't be the biggest surprise if another delay happened. I mean, that's the same reason why the sequel has been delayed for so long. So the fans are pretty much bracing themselves for this game to go down the same route, though it'd still be just as disappointing if it did happen. And the fact that we don't even have a trailer for the gameplay or the roughest idea of the storyline is just adding to the disappointment. Though that isn't where the bad news ends, because I have to talk about how the studio went back on its word. When you're committing the biggest gaming crime of 2023, a lot of people are going to be ticked off, and that's exactly what happened with the ARK Remaster. So what went down? Well, originally gamers all over were getting a pretty sweet deal. All you had to do was pay $50 for the sequel, and you'd get the remaster for free, though you'd still have to buy the DLC separately, or at least that's what the studio made it sound like. Fast forward to May of 2023. The most recent delays in ARK 2, because of the new engine, have led to some changes. So instead, you're going to get a bundle with all of the DLC, of course. They're going to be completely reworked as well. But the catch is that you're not getting the sequel. All you get is some hope that there's going to be a sequel one day. So you're just paying an insane price for a game that's already out. While remasters are a great way to get more people into a franchise, I think it's safe to say that the pricing is absolute trash. I mean, why wouldn't people just go play the original? If anything, people actually wanted to buy the sequel and didn't really care all that much about the remaster in the first place. So you get why fans are so pissed off at the developers. How in the world did they think that DLCs could replace an entirely new game? Even if they're just doing it to get more people into the game, no one wants to pay for DLC unless they actually like the game. Plus, initially, they made it look like you were mostly paying for the new game instead of the remaster, not the other way around. It's the very same reason everyone was so excited about the whole thing. But now, it's a pretty useless deal that no one wants to actually buy it, whether it's your favorite streamer or even the most seasoned gamers out there. And it makes sense. Sure, it's got better graphics and some quality of life upgrades, but the first one still looks decent enough. Why waste more money on the same thing? The whole thing just went from being something fans were super excited about to just another game on the market that no one wants to buy. Not just that, you can't even transfer your files over from the original. All in all, this just isn't something the fans signed up for. And despite all of this rage, people are still down to pay for early access to ARK 2. So at this point, the studio really has to reevaluate its priorities. So, from the studio going back on their word and practically scamming fans, to the ARK Remaster getting a major upgrade with the graphics. That was a look at everything you needed to know about the ARK Remaster.